Well, the question now is, why do I camp? Why do I choose to moto-camp every chance I get? Why do we like to camp? It is much more involved than just saving money. You know, I read motorcycle forums from time to time, and I see guys all the time who chime in the middle of a conversation and say something like, you know, I rough it at the Holiday Inn. When I went to Sturgis, me and the missus, we toughed it out in our 38-foot fifth wheel toy hauler. They think that that's the first time anybody's ever chimed in and made that comment. Well, I don't have much patience for those kinds of comments. You know, I've worked more than 40 years. I still work today. I've been a reasonable saver all my life. I could buy a 38-foot fifth wheel toy hauler today if I wanted to, but that's just it. I don't want to. I love to moto-camp. Me and Roxy both love it. But here's why. You know, as a young kid, I grew up in South Georgia. I remember camping with my dad, my brothers, a cousin, and we would camp and we would fish all night long alongside this river. We would run out what we would call trot lines with white cord string and hooks and pull in catfish all night long. You know, that's an early memory of camping for me. I also remember going out and camping as part of a scout group. You know, in our early teens, you know, the equipment we used was canvas tents, sleeping bags that were cotton. Once those tents got wet, you would always be wet. You could never dry out. Your sleeping bag was wet. The mosquitoes were so prominent they could carry you off. So why do I love that? Well, you know, I don't necessarily love that, but when I look back, there's a rosy picture I tend to paint. I tend to filter out all the difficult times and just remember the fun times, the social, the camaraderie with your friends. I remember camping with my best friend in elementary and middle school. We used to go and camp out on a Friday night out in the edge of the pasture, of his dad's pasture, and get up early the next morning so we could go right into the adjacent woods with our guns and we'd go deer hunting. Those are great memories. Again, these are the rosy pictures we tend to paint, the things we filter out the bad, we remember the good, and we want to duplicate those feelings. You know, the equipment back then was probably 4 or 5 times as heavy or more than the equipment we carry today, which makes moto-camping that much easier. If you take and go out and procure backpacking style camping gear, you can get quite a bit of equipment on your motorcycle, especially when you're two-up camping like Roxy and me. We've had some of our best times and made some of our best memories while camping off of our bikes, especially in the national parks. Waking up and seeing the beauty of the forest around you, an occasional chipmunk running by. You know, there's nothing I love much more than sitting in my camp chair, drinking a cold Diet Coke, and you know, just relaxing. But the national parks, they provide such a beautiful place and remind you of why you're here on Earth and experiencing the things that you love to do. You know, additionally, I love just planning the next trip. When I'm out camping, I'm always thinking about, okay, where am I going next? You know, and even here at home, just to plan where I'm going to go camping next. That's a blast. I enjoy that. You know, the next bucket list national park I want to go to, the next thing I want to see. There were several years ago, I remember going into a brick and mortar style bookstore and standing next to the big magazine rack, you know, very long, and I stumbled onto a magazine called Roadrunner. And so I picked this thing up and I stood there for what seemed like hours just scrolling through all the articles, or actually I should say paging through all the articles and finding, you know, places that I wanted to go. I saw guys riding their bikes to a particular location. They'd set up camp and then they would complete these cloverleaf style loops out away from that campsite, and each night they'd come back after exploring in one particular direction, have a meal, enjoy the camp, and then the next morning they'd go out and do another loop and complete about 4 loops like a clover leaf around that hub. Well, I became a subscriber to that Roadrunner magazine and kept it for many years, and it became, you know, my bedside reading material for many years until, you know, such time as, you know, the internet took over and and provided much of what I like to watch, whether it be YouTube videos. I can explore national parks, and now I'm trying to create those same kinds of videos for people to see motorcycle travel to, in, and around national parks. You know, since 2009, when the Ken Burns National Park documentary series came out, I've watched every episode multiple times, scanned back into, took notes about particular locations, and since then I've taken a lot of those trips to those locations, from Yosemite to Glacier to Death Valley to Kings Canyon to the Grand Canyon. I mean, you know, several of these places I've had the good fortune to be able to take my bike and go there, and in many of them I've been able to camp there. I really love going and building my camping kit. The gear that I buy, I'm always researching it, trying to find hacks, ways to get multiple functionalities out of one particular item. You know, that's always fun to me, trying to minimize and trying to economize. You know, in the last couple of years, we've bought a jet boil. We would do what most campers do initially. We would boil water and hydrate freeze-dried mountain house meals. Well, that got old pretty quick and expensive, and it really didn't taste that good. You know, Roxy is a heck of a cook, and you know, we do, honestly, we go to the market, we buy some chicken breasts, we buy some vegetables, some fruit, we bring it back to camp. We do that about every other day when we're at a campsite, and Roxy is a whiz at stir frying and creating just wonderful Chinese meals, even at the campsite. Now granted, we just got a little 8-inch pan. We're able to accomplish what we need to cook right out of that 8-inch pan. We also have a Cedar Summit pot. We can cook rice, and so I'll show you some of those things in a future video when I talk about camping gear. These are all the things that we do that makes camping so much more enjoyable. You know, initially, me and Roxy, we struggled trying to set up our camping gear and set up our tent at a campsite and take it down and be efficient. But after several trips, we have become a pretty good team, and setting up and take down has become much more efficient. We all know our roles, but you know, that's part of the fun of it. It takes time and you know, maybe even an argument or two until you get it down and you become pretty efficient at it. I love to sit in my camp chair, you know, next to a fire. And I don't want to say that's cliche, because it's not. The fire never gets old unless it's a hot night. Well, I could go on, but I think you get the picture. You know, I could afford to spend $300 or $400 a night in a Hampton Inn and get up in the morning and eat their so-called free breakfast, prefab waffles and manufactured sausage that tastes like cardboard, and rehydrated scrambled eggs, and then get on the motorcycle and ride another 50 miles down the interstate to get to the entrance of a national park. Yeah, I could do all that, but why would you? You know, I don't want my motorcycle trip to be an extension of my job by staying in a Holiday Inn or a Hampton Inn. You know, we love to again see the national parks. We like to hike, and the motorcycle becomes more than just transportation. It becomes a seamless part of our vacation experience. Now, I know that many of you just love to ride and camping is not your thing. Hey, that's fine, that's cool. I'm not bashing you. Ride on. Enjoy it, my friends. Do what you love. I'm not advocating you do what I love. Do what you love. You know, I know we all ride for different reasons. Just as I shared in my recent video, Why I Ride, and the ton of comments that shared all the various reasons why you guys ride. Do what you love. That's what what I'm advocating is we do what we love. And the fact that you're watching this video tells me that there's some interest, that we have similar tastes. I'm sure that's why many of you are watching this video now, as you have interest. And if I can help with the camping experience, terrific. I'm thrilled to death to share it with you. If there are those of you out there who are interested in doing this and you don't do it yet, I would say ease into it. You know, perhaps you've got a friend who has gear that you can borrow. There is somewhat of an expensive initial investment in equipment. You may spend a few $100s getting your initial setup in order to go out and try it, but I would recommend you kind of ease into it. See if you and your partner enjoy it. If you want to see some of the gear that I have, check out my camping gear video. It shows you a lot of the equipment that I initially purchased. I'm going to follow that up with a revision to show you some things I've taken out and tried to minimize. But go back and check out my camping gear video, and that'll give you a good introduction to some of the equipment I have. Guys, let me conclude with this. Ask yourself, if you do camp, why do you camp? Share that with us in the comments. For me and for all those who are watching the video, do you combine camping with your motorcycle trips? What motivates you to camp rather than stay in a hotel? So guys, go out there and populate the comment section. I promise to reply and answer any questions that you have. I love to talk about it. I can sit there for what seems like hours and reply and carry on conversations with many of you, as I've done on some of these other videos. So guys, please subscribe to the channel. If you enjoy watching, select the bell icon so you get notified of the next video I put out. And give us a thumbs up and share your comments. All those things help us to build the channel and allow us to broaden the viewership and widen the conversation about motorcycles, about camping, about how-tos as it relates to motorcycles. Just all the things that I have a passion for. I hope that those of you that are watching have a passion as well, and that we can learn from each other.